We are live. It's a new episode, Sprint Ride Option Podcast. I wish I was more creative so I didn't just say the same thing every time we started a podcast. But I am Andrew Pasquini, a man who is still emotionally broken from the Red Wedding, watching it for the first time. Jason Aponte next to me. I don't know if he's still emotionally broken because he probably saw it like 6 years ago and has time to get over it. Jason, how are you doing on this lovely? It is Wednesday. How are you doing on this Wednesday afternoon?
First of all, I want to say that you are absolutely creative because you doing it the same exact way is the song intro. They don't change the theme to Sports Center or any other thing, and it's something that they do all the time. Nobody lambasts them for it. And also, when it comes to the Red Wedding and Game of Thrones, Andrew, I warned you. And I almost warned you to stay away because Game of Thrones is a traumatic show, and more often than not, you will walk away from episodes feeling beat down and hurt.
Yeah.
And this is the first, and there's more. Isn't it. That's not it. I wish I could tell you that was the worst thing and that it's going to be fine. It's not going to be fine, Andrew. I'm telling you right now, it's not going to be fine.
My girlfriend was like, hey, let's watch the season finale because, one more episode, we get through the season. I just looked at her. I'm like, no, I can't.
Well,
I'm tired.
Little known secret, and I don't know if this is giving anything away, but most good shows that I've ever watched, usually the best episode of each season is the penultimate episode.
Yeah,
and it's not the ultimate. The last episode is always wrapping things up.
Mm-hmm.
I think the penultimate episode is always the one that leaves you shook, and that's not just Game of Thrones. That's many shows.
Yeah, before we started the Red Wedding episode, my girlfriend Jamie I'm just going to call her Jamie because it's easier on my brain.
Aww.
She turns to me and goes, "Just so you know, things get weird in the episode before the season finale every time." And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm assuming something's going to happen here. What's up, Josh, with his John Miller Giants?
I love it. I think that's
City
the best.
Connect.
Can I just say that I think that's the best Twitter avatar out there right now, and I'm calling it Josh Echols right now, best Twitter avatar. Don't debate me.
I sent him that picture, and he's like, I kind of want to make it my Twitter picture. I'm like, do it. It's a great picture. John Miller's the best. Yeah, man, Game of Thrones, I'm tired. I feel like the past couple of weeks I've been tired because Game of Thrones has been picking up, and a lot of stabbing going on in the previous episode. But we're not, I don't think, if you want, we can be here to talk Game of Thrones. We have some business to pick up though.
Yep.
We are going to begin our positional breakdown episodes today. And we're starting with the running backs. That's where we're starting. I think in my brain, we're going to do in order of positions we're least stressed about, and running backs the first one. And we'll just slowly work our way to special teams because that's what stresses Jason out the most. No, we're going to close with quarterbacks. So as I said, when we advertised this set before we started it, we're doing quarterbacks last because that's the position everybody cares about. Let's get you guys excited about it. But Jason, some stuff happened today. Sean Mcvay is a podcaster. I learned that today. I did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
He does a podcast with Peter Schrager of I believe of NFL Network. If I'm incorrect, I'm sorry, Peter Schrager. Kyle Shanahan talked about some things. The biggest thing being the Matt Stafford saga. And we'll just jump right into it. The quote that everybody's talking about, quote, "So I was trying to get involved in it. I remember Saturday I was so stressed out and we finally talked to someone."
You all right?
I have no idea. Some brake squeal happened and it was wild. I don't know if you heard that, but that's what I heard. I remember Saturday. I was sorry. I'm going to go right back into it. I heard brakes and it threw me off. Quote, "So I was trying to get involved in it. I remember Saturday I was so stressed out. And finally we talked to someone. It was 7 at night and they're like, no, nothing's happening with the trade at the earliest until tomorrow. So you can finish your night." So I'm like, all right, I'm done. I put my phone down, talked to Mandy. I'm like, all right, let's go out to dinner. Let's have some drinks. Half an hour later, my buddy calls me and is like, "I'm just telling you, if you want Stafford, you need to get a hold of him right now." I'm like, "What do you mean? We just talked to people. I can sleep on this. We'll talk to them tomorrow." And then his friend said, "I'm just telling you, you need to talk to him right now." And then it was all over. And so Shanahan pretty much confirmed that the Niners were very much into the Matt Stafford situation to a point where Shanahan felt comfortable going to bed and thought maybe that Stafford was on his way to the 49ers. And Sean McVay jumped in and said, no, not today.
It's funny. Him and Kyle were in Cabo in different hotels at the same time. And that was found out on the podcast. The problem is that Sean McVay was with Matthew Stafford. Now, do the timeline. When that day happened, where was I? Where were we? As a gold mine collector, where were we at that point?
I was at a coffee shop in Sacramento, California. I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Jason, where were you?
We were in Mobile. And look, I'm not going to make this a big deal, but now you know. For anybody who didn't know, now you know. And it's exactly what we said. The Rams outbid. And that was it. I think the bigger thing to take away from this, and forget all that. The bigger thing to take away from this is this. You flip the rock on Tom Brady. You flip the rock on Matthew Stafford. You flip the rock on Deshaun Watson. What is Kyle Shanahan telling you about the quarterback position? Does he love it? Does that sound like somebody who loves it? No, they don't. And he doesn't. So I think that I think the more interesting conversation becomes, did the 49ers exhaust plan A, B, C, and then at number 3, push themselves to number 3 to get Trey Lance? It's an interesting discussion. When you look at the timeline and we know what we know, Tom Brady is not here, not because the 49ers didn't want him, because the 49ers didn't want to pay him. Matthew Stafford's not here because the Rams go ahead and they jump in and they throw what they throw. Deshaun Watson's not here because Deshaun Watson might not be playing football this year. We have no idea. So what does that tell you about the conversation around the quarterback position? So for everybody who labels me, not you so much, Andrew. Andrew, you're too diplomatic. You are too on with the level-headed takes. It's not diplomatic because you say what you really want to say, but you say it because you believe those things. What about that screams us being a Jimmy hater or anything like that, more than we are just reading it's not even writing on the wall anymore. It's graffiti on the wall. Yeah. It's not like someone drew on it with Sharpie. It's spray painted on the wall. Like, it's literally that. It's literally Hulk Hogan on the side of a camper, NWO. It's on there. Like, that's literally what it is. So I think that's really what you should take away from this. Forget the fact that the Matt Stafford thing was, we knew that he was interested. Forget that. It's telling you about what he believes about his quarterback one position. Go ahead, Andrew.
What a great reference on the 25th anniversary of Hulk Hogan turning
I didn't even know.
WCW and creating the end. Today is the 25th anniversary. So great call there. If you are having issues, we're seeing people, the YouTube's not loading for me either. If it's lagging, we are on Jason's Twitter page as well. I know if you watch it on YouTube, apparently that's having issues right now. We'll look into that later. Yeah, I really do. The thing that I want to take away from what Shanahan said, and like, obviously we can talk about what he thinks about the quarterback position. I think it's very, very obvious at this point, considering the Niners traded up to 3. Like, I think that's like, you could take the Stafford, you can take the Watson rumors. The Niners still ultimately ended up trading up to go get a quarterback. The big thing to me, and something that everybody needs to remember, and something I was saying when it happened, is how quick everything changes. How quick everything changes. Like, the Niners, yes, they could have had an agreement with the Detroit Lions. Absolutely, fully possible. All it takes is one phone call from the Rams and saying, hey, we're going to offer this, and the Lions easily can flip. Like, people act like, and obviously I'm pointing towards something that I would defend till I die, because I have a friend who put his neck out there and said this on Twitter. Just because he said it and it ended up not being true doesn't mean it wasn't ever true, right? And so that's something to me, is like, everything can change on the drop of a dime. And Shanahan talks about it. He literally said, hey, I was told I can like sleep. I can go to bed tonight. And then 10 minutes later, it's, hey, you might want to go talk to the guy you're trying to trade for, because it sounds like he's not available for trade anymore.
Shanahan's sources, it sounds like he's a podcaster at this point. His sources let him down and he went to sleep and everything as well too. But I think that it's really funny about how all this stuff is. See, here's the thing that I've been trying to tell people about not only this process, but the draft process. This draft process to get them to 3 and whoever was the choice, you can listen to John Lynch tell you that it was Trey the entire time. I don't buy that. That's fine. And we spent an entire offseason sifting through mass media feeding you whatever it is that they thought was happening, and we all picked that apart. This process is going to be discussed for years down the line. We may not find out the actual truth until someone writes a tell-all book, until Adam Peters comes out and says, hey man, I didn't want Trey Lance. I wanted Justin Fields, or I want, you're going to find all those things out later on. And that's what makes this discussion so engaging. And for people who are, why are you regurgitating? Why are you saying that? No, it's because the book is still being written about what actually happened. And if you know anything about Kyle Shanahan, he's been going on people's podcasts and talking about, I don't have to change what you guys think for my process. So this is ongoing. So there's a lot more layers to it. I hate to sound like a guy who's beating a dead horse, and that should be the mantra of 49ers Twitter, beating a dead horse. But at this point, this is something that is still going to be unlocked as we go years down the line and as guys divulge more information as they feel comfortable.
I feel like a lot of people are missing the big takeaway from this podcast. I don't think I've seen anybody have this. The real winner of this podcast is friendship. Because the fact that Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan can go on a podcast and joke around about Sean McVay sliding in and taking the guy Shanahan wanted.
They were literally in the same hotel. They were in a hotel room away from them. That's the funny part. So this is how Sean McVay asked the question, hey, how do you feel about that? Well, I was in Cabo. He was like, you were in Cabo? We were in Cabo. So he had no idea.
Yeah.
Those guys were both in the same area. That's so crazy.
But for them to be division rivals and them talking about, hey, the Niners wanted this player, division rival Rams got this player, and they're talking about it like you and I talk before the podcast, just as friends. I love it. It warms my heart that they're division rivals. They were both going for the same player and they're just talking about it. I don't know, that to me is kind of fun. I don't know if that's the biggest takeaway.
Look, if you and I, let's just say you and I, right? We played a game at MLB The Show. We're friends. We're very good friends. I want to beat you into submission, though, if we play that game, and then vice versa. That doesn't diminish the friendship, and that's what I think is cool about the dynamic. And it also makes it cool because they're division rivals. They're basically blood rivals at this point. But I think that both recognize the opportunity there. Sean McVay saw his chance to get a quarterback that can uplift his offense as opposed to uplift the quarterback in his offense. And Kyle Shanahan saw somebody who could uplift his offense because he's tired of calling reverses. Keep listening to that podcast. There are so many little nuggets in there that let you know how frustrated he is and how hamstrung he is with his own play calling, having to call reverses just so he knows he can get positive yards and things like that. That is all in there. That's why it's important for you to listen. One more thing that I want to point out, because we're about to spend we'll spend a little bit more time on it because we have almost an hour, right? If Kyle Shanahan loses to a podcaster, how does that change your perception of Kyle Shanahan? Since podcasters are the worst thing that's ever happened to Twitter or any sort of world, Sean McVay is a podcaster masquerading as a coach. Kyle, go get him 2 straight more times this year. How bad would it be for Kyle Shanahan if he lost to an actual podcaster?
Never, it would be brutal. I think, I don't think you can bounce back from that. Podcasters get a really bad rap. And if you lose the one in the NFL, I just think automatic hot seat. That's just kind of the rules. I don't listen, Kyle Shanahan, if you're watching this, I don't make the rules. Thank you, Kyle. We appreciate the donation. The real winner is the coach with Richie James. That is true because Kyle Shanahan does dominate Sean McVay. That's something we've seen happen over the years. No, Kyle, obviously he's not on the hot seat if he loses to a podcaster. No. But I mean, I just back to your point, man, the fact that they're such good friends, I feel makes this rivalry so much more fun because when two coaches dislike each other, there's a little bit of like, I want to beat the crap out of him. But like when they're friends, it's I want to beat them and kind of one up them. So it's pretty exciting to know like, hey, they're just chilling in Cabo, not even knowing they're next to each other. They probably found out they were next to each other and like got a beer. Like, I don't know. It makes the rivalry more fun that him and McVay are friends.
The other thing that's cool about it is that McVay's offense is an offshoot of Kyle Shanahan's. So a lot of much of what he does is based in that offense. So it's almost like teacher, master, or master and student. And who can, does the master teach the pupil everything? And I think that's the rule is you don't do that. But I think that's what makes this fun. And let's face it, the Seattle Seahawks thing has happened recently. As far as rivalries go. Mm-hmm. I don't think the 49er fans hate the Arizona Cardinals. They've never done anything to the
Cardinals
49ers.
Exist?
Yeah, exactly. I don't think they've ever done anything to the 49ers. Let's face it. The biggest rivalry over a longer stretch of time is against the Rams, no matter where they play. So that's another thing that throws into it. You can say right now that if you want to grade the rivalry, grade it as Seattle and then the Rams, fine with that. Yeah. But over a longer stretch of period, the Rams and the 49ers, they are actual blood rivals. So that's what kind of makes this cool. And I think all those things that we just talked about, him being an offshoot of Kyle, them making the playoffs, all those things, this is cool.
No, I'm literally scrolling Twitter, and apparently I didn't get a chance to listen to the podcast. Here's a fun one.
Yep.
Because I didn't get a chance to listen to the podcast. I obviously saw the big like Stafford stuff. This was from Sean McVay. Quote, I thought there was a possibility that Kyle was going to go Pitts at 3. In all seriousness, because he's such a visionary. I'm telling you, I didn't think it was going to be a crazy thought because when you go back to when New England had the 2 tight ends set and they were doing things totally different. I like how he didn't mention the 2 tight ends the Patriots used. Mm-hmm. You think about what Kittle, and then the thing that makes sense is that, hey, Jimmy Garoppolo is produced all the way. This isn't a production thing. This is an availability thing that you're saying. We can't have that, but it was like if it's not Mac Jones, and I hadn't studied Trey just because there wasn't a lot of film exposure going back a couple of years, and we weren't in that market, so I didn't know other than watching him throw at his pro day that you're saying, all right, you can see a lot, and he just kind of starts talking. So that's interesting that McVay kind of had a guess, which is something, I tried to will to happen with Pitts and Kits. Didn't happen.
You're a visionary as well.
Like as fun as obviously the quarterback was the need, but like just picturing Kyle Pitts in a Shanahan offense next to Kittle was just such a fun thing to think about. It was very, I don't know. I feel like if it was in Madden, I probably would have taken Pitts because you could just turn injuries off and be fine with Garoppolo and kind of see what the offense looks like. So that's a fun one. That just literally popped up on my timeline. Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, just posted that. So there's a fun little thing.
I'm glad that you mentioned Kyle Pitts because I just drafted him with my 4th pick in the Scott Fishbowl 11 satellite best ball draft. So
there you go. Boom. I haven't even thought of fantasy football. So that's where we are too. I'm more worried about, hey, my fantasy baseball team has won 5 games in a row. We are on fire. The get it out of the oceans. We're playing Josh Eccles.
There you go.
Raymond has a serious question. Have you ever seen a fan base so split on a Super Bowl losing quarterback? Is there a fear that's driving the narrative? I don't think it's necessarily about Garoppolo, and we'll transition. We'll use this to transition away from this Shanahan talk to our running back talk, what we're here to talk about today. I don't necessarily think I don't think anybody's questioning how good Garoppolo actually is. I don't think that's what the conversation's about. It's more so his injury history and can he stay on the field? That's to me the biggest question. So yeah, can I think of a more split thing? Off the top of my head, can you? Okay, let's see what you have because I can't.
Colin Kaepernick?
Oh yeah, that's true. That's very true. God, I blacked out. No puns intended. I blacked out that Super Bowl. So.
Nice. That works too. No, that was definitely pun intended. Here's my question, and this is what I'm going to bring up. And whatever, it's at the point where it doesn't matter. I'm not here to mince words, and it's time to get ready down and stuff. Has there ever been one quarterback with 1 year of body of work who has never played 16 games that has gotten more credit in this game than James Garoppolo?
Yeah.
And that's no slight at him because there is a potential and there's a chance to see things happen. But for people to sit and look me in the face and tell me Kirk Cousins isn't better than Jimmy Garoppolo, Ryan Tannehill's not better than Jimmy Garoppolo, Baker Mayfield's not better than Jimmy. How? How can you say that? How can you say that with a straight face when those guys have put more than 1 year in the league? Kirk Cousins throws for 4,000 yards every single year, but yet that's not good enough. Jimmy Garoppolo in 2019 did what he did, and that's better than everything Kirk Cousins has ever done, Ryan Tannehill's ever done, Baker Mayfield's ever done. I'm done with this conversation about a 1-year quarterback at this point. Do I think he can play well? Yes. Can they win games? Yes. Maybe he hasn't reached his potential. What is his potential? I don't think it's too much higher than where he's at, but one quarterback who has gotten so much credit over 1 year, 1 single year and 5 games gets more credit than guys who have won in this league consistently year after year. Make it make sense to me, 49ers fans, please.
Yeah, and like this isn't, it's obviously not a knock. I guess it is because he hasn't been healthy, but like if you were to say, like if you were to put a Madden overall over the last 3 years on these guys, I'm just going to pick random numbers. Don't get mad at me. Tannehill's like a 90, Baker's like an 85, Kirk Cousins like a 92. Garoppolo's just incomplete because we don't know what he is outside of that 1 year. So it's hard to compare him, which is why you see people put him more towards the bottom half of the top quarterbacks in the league. It's not that he doesn't have the potential to sneak into the top 15, maybe even top 10. It's just we don't know. We don't know what he actually is because his 1 year was pretty good, but everything else is just so hampered by injuries. It's hard to tell what he actually is.
Like people would look me in my face on Twitter and say, "Oh my God, Jimmy Garoppolo is so much better than Derek Carr." Is he? Can you really say that with a straight face? Can you?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if you really can say that with all confidence. Here's who I can tell you Jimmy Garoppolo is better than. Dwayne Haskins, a host of other quarterbacks who have flamed out in this league. Yeah. Like, we can be objective. But when you look at me in this tier that we're talking about, why does Jimmy Garoppolo get so much credit when this obvious team in 2019 was one of the best teams on paper and played to that entire potential, but he hasn't played any of the years? How can you realistically tell me that you think that Jimmy Garoppolo is better than guys who have a track record? Track record greater than potential, and especially for a guy who's about to turn 30 soon. I don't think you hit your ceiling at 30. Either you hit your ceiling and that's where you're at, or you can improve a little, but it's not going to get too much better. We know who Jimmy Garoppolo is, and that's not a knock at him. They can win 11, 12 games. I've been on record with that as long as there's no catastrophic injuries. But at the same time, why are you putting him above guys who actually have played in this league more than 1 year and shown you much more?
Yeah, if Garoppolo can give a full healthy 17 games and ideally a full healthy 20 games, if you know what I mean, then let's start talking about where he actually sits. It's just it's an incomplete grade at this point, and that's all. It's hard to put him there. Raymond,
there's nothing wrong with saying that. There's nothing wrong with saying that. There's nothing wrong with saying I don't know still to this day what Jimmy Garoppolo is. 1 year does not define what a player is. Players have to, once people adjust, all those things happen. You can say whatever you want what happened in the playoffs, but 1 year does not define a career. There have been plenty of people who have burned out after one good year. There's plenty of people who have shown you their best year in 1 year and have been solid. There's nothing wrong with saying that. Jimmy Garoppolo can be a starting quarterback in this league. When I say a starting quarterback, that's not a knock at him. The problem is that too many people want to elevate him. I saw someone say that he's in the elite conversation. How on earth? Is that even a discussion point? Or how did you type those words out, or you said those words and believed it? How can you believe that? You can't believe that.
Yeah, and that's just kind of what it is. Ray, we appreciate the donation.
Thank you. The
donation, great question. It's a good question, and it's a hard question to answer, and that's pretty much that. I'm really good at segues, so let's talk about the 49ers running backs in 2021, because that's why we are here. Jason, there is a lot of new names. There's some old names. I went to the 49ers roster last night. The names they had listed, the names Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson Jr. We'll throw Kyle Juszczyk in there because he falls into the running back. Jermichael Hasty, and then the three new names, Wayne Gallman, Trey Sermon, who actually hasn't signed his contract with the Niners yet. He's not on the roster. And Elijah Mitchell. So those are the 7 running backs. I'm going to try and give you a fact on all of them as we go, because I think that's fun. Jason, how do you feel about the 49ers running back situation in the year 2021?
Well, I feel the way that the 49ers organization has told you they feel about the running back position. They've drafted someone who is profiling as a bell cow, Trey Sermon, and someone in Elijah Mitchell who profiles more like Raheem Mostert. Having said those things, and that's down the line, Raheem Mostert, and we talked about it last year, the Rams game in particular, when Jimmy Garoppolo was coming back from the ankle injury, Raheem Mostert was the best player in that game. And he, for a whole half, was dominant. And I think that while we talk about the only real thing that we have to say that's negative about him is obviously injuries, and he can't control that. But I think that some people kind of sleep on how good Raheem Mostert is. And I think that people understate how important he is to this offense when he's rolling, because he takes the pressure off of the quarterback. And I really, really believe that still, no matter what, whenever it is, because, he was a little nicked up in OTAs. He should be fine for camp. It's nothing really serious. Still believe that Raheem Mostert is going to see the bulk of the carries. Now, what I want and what will happen is two different things. And we've, lamented that. But what I want is more 2019 style. Trey Sermon profiles as your Tevin Coleman back, much better than Tevin Coleman, though. Like, let's not get it twisted. But we all know that Tevin Coleman was the starter in 2019 down the stretch, would be the guy that would soften the defense up and show Kyle where to attack with Raheem Mostert. And I would love to see that, because I feel that Raheem Mostert is somebody who doesn't need 18, 20 touches unless he's balling. Unless it's like unstoppable and it's that Green Bay game and there's nothing you could do about it, then fine. For the most part, Raheem Mostert, to do damage and to be the impact player that we believe he is, really only needs 12, 15, most 17 good touches for him to have his impact felt. And if you can put Trey Sermon in a position where he profiles more like that bell cow who can take punishment in between the tackles and allow Raheem Mostert to stay fresh, I love that idea. Now, is that what Kyle's going to do? I don't think so. Kyle has a little bit of trust issues with running backs, and I don't know how much trust he has in Trey Sermon. We don't know. Camp's about to begin at the end of the month. But I know that he knows Raheem Mostert is his most reliable right now, especially since we know Jeff Wilson is going to be on the shelf for 6 months, 4 to 6 months.
Yes.
So I like that idea.
Yeah, the running back position is a position I'm like, if I had to power rank by how much sleep I'm losing thinking about each position, if I go to bed thinking about the 49ers running back position, I'm getting a solid 10 hours of sleep. I'm just like, yeah, I feel fine. I'm good. I'm happy. Like I've said it. I think it's a joke I made on literally our first episode of this podcast before it was even the Sprint Right Option podcast. Kyle Shanahan can make my dad a 4-yard per carry running back.
Oh, I love that joke. That's the OG joke.
Yeah, that's like the first running joke we had.
Your dad could get 4.5, I think.
Yeah,
easily.
So this isn't. It's more about managing the injuries and managing workloads and all that. Like, you're right. You say 15, 17 carries. Get Mostert to 10 to 12. Keep him as healthy as you can. He's your 3rd and 22 where you're just going to run draw play. Let him see what he can do. Just see what he can do, right? He's your big chunk guy. I think Trey Sermon is going to be, if we had to say, because there is no true running back 1 in the Niners system. It's more running back 1A, 1B, 1C, and then there's running back 2, right? I would say as of July 7th, 2021, Trey Sermon's probably running back 1A, Raheem Mostert's running back 1B, and then after that, it's whatever you want it to be. Wayne Gallman maybe 1C, obviously with Wilson hurt. But the big thing I see with this is these are also all guys who can come out of the backfield and catch the ball. The things you heard with Sermon, hey, he can catch the ball out of the backfield. Elijah Mitchell, catch it out of the backfield. We've seen Mostert do it. Jeff Wilson does it a little bit. Kyle Juszczyk does it all the time. So, and I mean, Juszczyk does it more, in different positions. They use him kind of as a quasi tight end as well sometimes. But man, Kyle Shanahan knows how to use his running backs. I'm not worried about this position whatsoever. It's gonna look good, even if all of them get hurt. Right, knock on wood. Hopefully that doesn't happen. And Austin Walter, here I got There you
Austin
go.
Walter's not on the roster anymore.
But like they could pick him up from
anybody,
wherever
right.
he is, and they could pick and plug. I just picked his name because that's the one that popped into my head.
Right.
You can pick him up, and Shanahan will scheme him up for. I mean, you got to remember, and I mean, this ended up being a mistake. But remember, JaMychal Hasty, his very first snap, they call a slant route to him, just real quick, get him the ball. Ended up being an accident, but it's just like, hey, he went in there very first NFL snap. Ball's coming to me. Okay, let's go. So like he has a rotation of guys he can pick from. I'm not worried about the running back position whatsoever. A fun fact about Raheem Mostert before I kick it back to Jason. He was born in New Smyrna Beach, Florida, which is known as the shark bite capital of the world. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but it is known as the shark bite capital of the world. He's also a big surfer, which is where that celebration.
Right.
But just, I don't know if I'd want to be known as the shark bite capital of the world. That sounds bad.
Well, as a city, you wouldn't want to be. And I don't know if I would want to be from there, especially a surfer. But back to your point about being most, his impact on this team is big. And as much as I want to downplay it and say, hey, maybe we should move him, something like that, you really got to think about it this way. Arizona, week 1, there's no other running back that takes that choice route to the house on the first play against Arizona. That's not what happened. There's no running back on this roster that takes that first handoff against the Jets to the house. It's just, that's not what happens. And that's his impact. And when he's rolling and this offense is rolling, it's very hard to stop. His vision is what I think gets lost on people because he runs a lot of outside zone. They don't use him to bury him in between the tackles. He has to kind of be patient, wait for those blocks to open up, understand where the blocks are coming, read the defenders. And I think he does that very well, where his feet are patient, they're moving fast, but his vision is so good that he knows how to hit that hole. And when he hits that hole, he hits it in a way that nobody on this roster can, because when he hits the hole and no one's there, it's a touchdown. That's it. And that he's that fast. So I understand that. And I think that I've gotten to realize that a little bit more now that I've dug into him a little bit deeper. And, when you talk about what guys bring as far as other things, right? Trey can catch the ball a little bit more than you believe. I think Elijah Mitchell is as fast or can play as fast as Raheem Mostert, but he actually catches the ball a little bit better. When Raheem Mostert catches passes, they're straight up screens or trick plays in the Saints game where he's like wide open. I don't think that that's his forte. But he can do it. I think that Elijah Mitchell offers a little bit more there. And you understand that the 49ers have kind of addressed this position, understanding where they're going to be going forward. Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson, unfortunately, are not under contract going forward. So if you want to bring them back, that's fine. That's up to you. I don't know how realistic that is when you've drafted basically their replacements at this point. But at the same time, if somebody wants to come back for nothing, nobody's going to say, no to that. But I think that the Elijah Mitchell and Trey Sermon thing kind of tells you that this organization is looking forward, and we've talked about that. But I think that Raheem Mostert is going to get more touches than people believe. I just think that Trey Sermon is going to be a little bit more involved than people believe because, if you look at the 2019 formula, Tevin Coleman, he would have games where he would score 4 touchdowns, and then they brought Mostert in. That was before Mostert really broke out, but I could kind of see them going back to the saving Mostert thing and letting Sermon take some of the punishment in the beginning while allowing Shanahan to set up that haymaker that is Raheem Mostert in the running game. Because, as much as we want to talk about the genius of Kyle Shanahan, I think more of it comes from the running game than it does the pass game. So,
yeah, and you mentioned Mostert, Wilson, they could be gone. And I really think they likely will be at the end of this season because I think they bring in Sermon and Mitchell. I'm sure there's expectations within the 49ers front office that if Mostert plays a full 16 games, he's going to play himself into a contract, right? Yep. And we're really at a point, especially I think with the Niners too, getting bitten by the Tevin Coleman contract and the Jerick McKinnon contract. I think they're slowly learning that maybe running back isn't a position you invest in. So I think, or at least financially, you spend 2 picks, so obviously it's an important position.
They value the position, but I think they understand that paying running backs isn't exactly the move.
It is, yeah, exactly. It isn't the move. So I really think that's why we saw them take 2 running backs, and maybe part of it is they knew Wilson's injury. And man, I'm so bummed about the Wilson injury because he's probably my favorite running back to watch on this team. I've said it before. and I never know how to word it, but behind Derrick Henry, he is the second guy I wouldn't want to tackle in the league because he just runs so damn physically. I really think he has the speed to be a quick back, but he just he doesn't go down easily. It's like he has speed, but like the physicality of a Frank Gore type, in his peak, where it's just he'll be able to break through tackles, but like as I said with Frank Gore previously, is like he never had the breakaway speed to get more than a 50-yard carry before somebody catches him from behind. Wilson has that speed to get away from everybody, so like it's a best of both world thing. So I think that Wilson injury is going to be it's more damaging than people think because of the depth at the position. And I don't think it'll hurt that bad. It's just I do think there's a world where Jeff Wilson ends up being the best running back in this running back room. And your little Jeff Wilson fact is as a junior in high school, he averaged 8.4 yards per carry, 8.9 yards per carry as a senior. And you're like, oh, maybe he didn't get a lot of carry. Nope. In 2 years in high school, he had 5,078 rushing yards and 59 touchdowns.
Oh my God. Here's another fun fact about Jeff Wilson. The man raps, and apparently he has bars. I would implore anybody who has YouTube or anything like that, go plug in Jeff Wilson Jr. We've got a rapper in our midst, and I'll leave it up to you whether you think it's good. One more thing that I want to say about Jeff Wilson is I think his route running is a little bit understated. Remember, in 2019, he ran that same choice route against Arizona, and it won a game. And it was his first snap of the game, so he was ready to go at that point, and he physically dominated at the end of the year. My fantasy football players out there, if you started Jeff Wilson Jr. at the end of your year, you probably won your fantasy championship because you were in the playoffs. You probably won your league because of how dominant he was catching the ball out of the backfield and scoring touchdowns. So I do think that is going to be a little bit more of my God, it's a little bit more hurtful that he's not going to be there. But I will say this, Wayne Gallman, man. Wayne Gallman, that pickup at first, I kind of just was said, okay, this is good depth. But thank God they did. And I think that a lot of 49er fans, if you're not familiar with Wayne Gallman stood in for Saquon Barkley. And look, I live on the East Coast, so I have a lot of exposure to him. Also, I play fantasy football, so if you did lose Saquon Barkley and you started Wayne Gallman some weeks, you were actually okay. Wayne Gallman is very solid. He's very solid in between the tackles. Here's the game that I will point to 49er fans. If you want to watch Wayne Gallman dominate, watch when they beat Seattle in Seattle. That Wayne Gallman game, he went crazy. You know who was the starting quarterback for the New York Giants and they beat the Seattle Seahawks?
Kerry Collins.
Colt McCoy.
That was close.
You were close. It's the same thing, same throwing motion, all that stuff. But Wayne Gallman is way more solid than people know. And I think that Jeff Wilson, is great, but Wayne Gallman, if Jeff Wilson doesn't step right as soon as he comes out, Wayne Gallman can steal that role pretty quickly. And I don't think that people understand that. Here you go, Austin Arroyo. I had Jeff Wilson on my fantasy, but he didn't win me the championship. Oh, Kamara scored 6 touchdowns in the championship game. That's not fair.
That just doesn't help.
If you had Jeff Wilson and you didn't face the greatest fantasy football performance in championship week history in week 16, then you probably won your championship. But I really love the Wayne Gallman move. And I think that Wayne Gallman is actually going to be a contributor right away because, again, he has a track record. So when we were talking about, hey, Wilson, Mostert, I think that third back is Gallman. Not Wilson. I mean, Sermon, Mostert. I think the third back is going to be Gallman because he has a track record in this league. And I think they targeted him, and like you said, they invest in the position, whether that's draft capital, but I think they have to stop financially. Remember, they outbid themselves for Jerick McKinnon. They kind of paid too much for Tevin Coleman. When Kyle gets his guy in his head, he loves him. It's kind of what I was bringing up today when I tweeted that Jalen Hurd was drafted and Terry McLaurin was on the board. I wasn't trying to make light of it. It's just kind of, I get the need and the scheme portion of it, but sometimes you miss out on best player available because you fell in love with a guy. So, but Wayne Gallman is going to be a contributor right away, I believe.
Wayne Gallman in 2020 with the Giants, 15 games, 147 carries, 682 yards, 6 touchdowns, and then 21 receptions for 114 yards.
On a bad team.
For a bad team.
Bad team.
He was high school teammates with Robert Condice, which I don't even remember what team he's on because he's bound. Is he on the Ravens still? Is that who he's on?
I don't know. This one's out. This
Raiders? Raiders? Is he on the? I feel like he's on the Raiders.
This one's escaping me.
And he also played high school football with Austin Meadows of the Tampa Bay Rays.
I know him. He hits a lot of home runs against the Yankees. I know him. And
Wayne Gallman, he felt like when the Niners signed him, like I was waiting for the news of the contract to come out. I was like, oh my God, that's like the guy they overpaid. That like how is he coming here? The Niners don't have money.
No guaranteed money.
And then it just ended up being a very team-friendly contract, and it really felt like it's kind of like the Samson Ekubom signing. It's just one that like kind of slides underneath because they brought back Trent Williams. They trade up for the third pick. All these things happen. But this Wayne Gallman signing could be one that we look back and be like, wow, they got him. Kim DJ's with the NFL.com says the Cardinals. Wikipedia says the Seahawks. I'm very confused. I'm going to say Seahawks because I see a picture of him at Seahawks practice.
He's with Seattle, Jesse Rodriguez.
He's with Jesse. Thank you. You cleared that one up. Appreciate it. So Gallman 100% can be a guy that we kind of forget about, and then he goes in week 3 against the Packers, Mostert doesn't get many carries. Sermon doesn't work, and Gallman just happens to have like a 10 carry, 115-yard game. So you never know, and that's kind of how the vibe with the Niners running back. And I think that's why Kyle Shanahan likes to keep a big running back room with kind of no names, because it's like sometimes I think Kyle Shanahan before games, he just sits in his office and he grabs the little popcorn bucket that I assume he just has popcorn in all the time, but pours out the popcorn, writes down all his running back names on a piece of paper, puts them in, closes his eyes, draws the name, is like, okay, today is Jeff Wilson's day. And then Jeff Wilson goes and has a massive game against the Patriots. And then the next week he sticks his hand in a thing and it's like, Austin Walter. Okay, Austin Walter's going to get some run, and that's just kind of how he does it. And I think he likes it that way because how do you scheme for that? Okay, right. Raheem Mostert last week, he had, against the Lions, he had 20 carries for 150 yards, and whoever the Niners are playing week 2, is it the Eagles, whoever it is, they're like, okay, Mostert's the guy. And then he's like, oh, Elijah Mitchell got no carries last week. He's the feature back this week. And I think that's how he likes it. And that's why, like, when I see people saying, hey, Raheem Mostert, they could trade him, right? He could be the odd man out. I don't think they're trading any running backs. Like, I just think he likes to have as many guys as he can. And that's, I think, part of why he signed Wayne Gallman, is so he could just have another fun weapon and just make it work how he wants.
And that's what's funny about it is after the draft, their press conference, they were pretty vocal about understanding with depth and what happened last year can't happen. And that kind of segues me into asking you a question about the running back room. Everyone loves Jermichael Hasty.
Yes.
Everyone loves him. And he really didn't get a chance to fully break out. Jerick McKinnon. See, this is what's funny. Here's what you should bring up from last year that'll back up what you just said about literally almost anybody being able to produce. Jerick McKinnon was depended on to be the running back 1 for many weeks. Many weeks. And he still scored touchdowns. No. We're not getting back to that. Look. We're not getting back to the Wildcat thing. But I'm just saying.
I thought you were swerving me and saying McKinnon was the one picked for the famous Wildcat play.
No. Richie James ran it in 2019 in the New Orleans game. It's in the bag. But, I think – and Richie James, I believe, was a former quarterback. Whatever. Anyway, what that tells you is Jerick McKinnon – bad legs, whatever it is, tired legs, he's going to get something out of you. And that's just because of the scheme, because of guys understanding things. So I think that kind of tells you a little bit more about what you were saying. And it kind of backs up your point that so many guys can come in and step in. But with Jermichael Hasty, we all see it. We see the flashes. Mm-hmm. He hits the hole. He hits it fast. He moves. Yes, dreads, kind of runs a little hard. Heard people say baby Marshawn. I don't know about that because Marshawn Lynch would literally run through an MFer's face. That's the famous video. I love that video. I like to watch it when I get a laugh. I need a laugh. But Jermichael Hasty is being a little bit, I guess, overlooked. But how can you not, right? Now let's think about it. Jermichael Hasty was an undrafted free agent. two players were drafted, Trey Sermon, Elijah Mitchell in the draft.
Yeah.
Raheem Mostert obviously has a role. Wayne Gallman was brought here even on no guaranteed money. I would pretty much consider him a lock to be on this team because who knows what's going to happen, especially with the Jeff Wilson injury. And then you have Jeff Wilson. So how do you feel about JaMycal Hasty going forward? Is he just going to be a practice squad guy? Because remember, last year, the 49ers did all they could to stop word coming out about JaMycal Hasty so they could stash him on the practice squad, keep him there, and nobody could steal him based on the rules with COVID. So what do you think about Hasty?
Yeah, I think he's going to be to use a baseball term, he's going to be the taxi squad guy. I like if I had to pick one of these guys, because I don't think they're going to carry 7 running backs week 1. Hasty's probably going to start on the practice squad. That's my guess. And I mean, kind of back to my point, though, about my dad getting 3-point. Obviously, this is a bad comparison because I'm comparing him to my dad. But like JaMycal Hasty, undrafted rookie, 39 carries, 148 yards. That's 3.8 yards per carry, right around where you want to be. I like him. I've been a big fan of his since we saw him a little bit last year. So I think he's the first guy off the practice squad, and he's a high character guy. I actually learned something last night, and this is my fun fact about JaMycal Hasty.
Go for it.
His junior and senior year in college at Baylor, he wore number 6. And why is that important? When Matt Rule came in at Baylor, he did this thing called the Single Digit Awards, and it was carried on by the next head coach, Dave Aranda. If I mispronounce that, I'm sorry. I don't watch much Baylor football. And the Single Digit Award it's voted on by the teams for players that have shown exceptional leadership and dedication to the Baylor football team. And he was voted as one of the, I guess if you count 0, one of the 10 guys who were allowed to wear a single digit number. And that's something that shouldn't be lost on anybody, because like it's not like the coaches saw him as a good talent. It's an entire locker room of college football players looked at JaMycal Hasty and said, you deserve a single digit number here at Baylor. So I think that's something that should mean something. So yeah, I think unfortunately Hasty's the odd man out, but I think he'll go to the practice squad. I don't know if he's a guy that teams will take a chance because it's like the Rule 40 draft, right? If you sign him off I'm way out of football knowledge, but like if you sign him off of the practice squad, they have to be on your active roster. I don't think he's quite there to be a guaranteed roster spot guy. So I don't think anybody's going to take him off the practice squad yet.
Well, Kali brings up a good point. If he sits on the practice squad and you declare him, and there's protected practice squad players based on COVID and things like that, I'll tell you this: if he sits on the practice squad and somebody goes down with an injury, he's definitely going to get scooped up. I believe. It's the same thing the 49ers did with Josh Rosen. Obviously, they needed more quarterback help because of what was going on, because of the injuries, but it was the same thing. Josh Rosen, and then remember, the player has to agree to go to your team. So if you're JaMycal Hasty, and let's just say Green Bay,
random team, yeah.
No, team that fits, team that's a Shanahan's. No, you hear? I'll do even better. Zach Taylor from Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Let's say Joe Mixon, Chris Evans, all those guys go down.
Yeah.
And they want to pick up JaMycal Hasty, and he knows that system. What would stop you from going over there to be in that system and be the guy if Joe Mixon and all those guys are injured? So it's an interesting dichotomy when it comes to that. It's either
great word dichotomy.
I'm sorry, word. It was on my word calendar list. You know, when you go and you look. Yeah.
Claps in the chat.
But it's interesting for you to think about. Do you stick with a team that potentially has a much better chance, obviously, than Cincinnati Bengals to going forward in the playoffs, or do you go get your shot and you go prove in a system that is very similar, if not basically the same thing, to what you run? So that's the part about the practice squad that's a little worrisome, I would say, and that's why he can't just sit there on the practice squad.
Yeah, and it's very tricky, and thankfully we don't have to make these decisions, right? Yeah. We're just podcasters like Sean McVay. Like, what does he do outside of the podcast, right?
That kid, he's 2 years younger than me. That kid, young man. I'm 28. He's older than me, so I can't call him a kid. Yeah, but barely.
But like you list all those things that have to happen, right? Injuries have to happen, and maybe injuries don't happen for teams that look at JaMycal Hasty. So obviously, it's a risk sending him down. I think Gallman's also a very strong practice squad player if they do continue the veteran thing, which I don't see why they wouldn't. because last year was the first year veterans could be on the practice squad. But it's tough. They have a lot of running backs. One of them's probably have to go down. And as of right now, I think Hasty would be the guy. And you just kind of hope that he hasn't, because obviously if no injuries happen, I don't think he's a guy where a team's going to look at him and be like, okay, we're going to take a chance on him. He's had 39 carries. I don't think they're going to do that. It is going to take injuries for a team to take a chance. So we'll see. I think Hasty's kind of like Pandora's box. You don't really know what you got until you open it. It could hurt. It could be good. You don't know. But he's definitely a name I'm excited for personally.
Dude, isn't Pandora's box from Hellraiser? And like when you open it, it was Pinhead. Like that's literally the last thing I want to open.
Pandora's box has been used for a lot of things. I think.
So, but it was used in Hellraiser, right?
Yeah,
so
it's like a Greek mythology thing.
Okay, but if I open it and Pinhead jumps out, I'm gonna be pretty upset.
Yeah, no, but like you know, anything can be in the box when you. I don't know, man. I just tried. See, you use dichotomy perfectly, and I can't question it.
No, you're right about Pandora's box. I'm being a jerk, man. Come on, Andrew.
Hey, I caught it. Do you want to know a fun fact about Kyle Juszczyk?
I do.
He went to Harvard.
What? Are you?
No,
kidding
that's
me?
I wrote that down as a joke because
are you kidding
they
me?
remind you every time,
every single time.
No, he played tight end in high school and college. That makes a lot of sense. We see. Yes. And then I was curious. He went to Cloverleaf High School in Lodi, Ohio, and I was like, okay, let's see, because you know how they have the notable alumni. He was the only one on Wikipedia. So Kyle Juszczyk is literally the only notable alumni from Cloverleaf High School in Lodi, Ohio.
And I think here's my fun fact. I think that he wore a single-digit number in college. It doesn't matter. You don't have to fact check that. Somebody's going to yell at me on Twitter if it's wrong. But I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he did wear a single digit number. Harvard Fitzpatrick. I'm sorry. Juszczyk. Good luck spelling Juszczyk in one shot. I still haven't figured it out.
Oh, dude, I did it so much. Juszczyzyk.
Still doesn't register.
He wore number 44. So, like, if you overlay them in college,
he wore a single digit number because he was trying. Whatever. All right, so I'm wrong. You got it, Andrew.
I mean, you know, it's okay. But you know, I'm wrong more often than I'm not on this podcast. It's okay. It's fine.
Oh, we're wrong. We're wrong at everything. We're wrong at everything because we're podcasters, Andrew.
Yeah, exactly. It is what it is. I'm happy Juszczyk is back. I'm going to put it out there. He is a large part of kind of what makes this offense works. And he was, if we really want to look at Juszczyk, he was really the first positionless guy on this team that Shanahan brought. And that's what Shanahan's trying to do. You know, you see him use Debo the way he does, which he probably should stop because Debo needs to be a receiver, not a running back. But Jalen Hurd was brought in as the idea of like, hey, he could play running back, receiver, tight end. Juszczyk was the first guy. He has a very important role in this offense. And I understand a lot of people were questioning his contract and all that stuff. It's tough because, yes, he's a fullback by position designation, and it's really confusing. But he really makes this offense work. And I'm personally very excited. The Cloverleaf High School alumni is back on the 49ers.
There you go. And I think this was a great discussion on the running back position. Very well level-headed. Yes. And yeah, you're right. This was the easiest one to go through at this point because Raheem Mostert doesn't have a serious injury. Jeff Wilson's obviously going to be 4 to 6 months. But for the most part, this running back room is going to be intact when we start camp at the end of the month. So I think this is the easiest way to start.
I'm going to give you my final 2 facts because I have one for each player.
Go for it.
Because that was my thing. But here's how I'm going to do this. You ready for this, Jason? Do you want to know what position we're going to talk about next? The first comment that says a position that isn't the quarterback in the comment for people commenting, that's the one we'll cover next week. How about that? So the first person to put a position in there that isn't quarterback, we'll take that as our next position group we're going to cover. Hopefully it happens while I'm reading these 2 facts. Trey Sermon drafted out of Ohio State. He actually went to Oklahoma. He was a transfer. His first career college touchdown was a 10-yard reception from Baker Mayfield, and his first college touchdown was at Ohio State. Josh Eccles says cornerback, so next week we're going to do defensive backs. That is what we're going to do. Jason, I got a question for you. I might have stolen it from 49ers _HNIC 78. When do players report for training camp?
The 27th.
The 27th, so July 27th. is when players report. And then my fun fact from Elijah Mitchell, according to Louisiana's website, he has 4 brothers. They are named Jeremiah, Devontae Augustus, Claude Augustus, and Marquise Augustus. All 3 of the 5 Mitchell brothers have Augustus in their name. I thought that was fun. Also, I'm very excited they drafted him because I just really like saying the Ragin' Cajuns because it's the best name in college football. So there's your fun facts. I don't know. Fun facts are very fun, and I feel like it lets us connect with players. You didn't know before today that Baylor did a single-digit thing. So there you go. We learned. And
what I learned about
from the shark bite capital of the world.
Right. And what I learned is that Elijah Mitchell and my other 2 brothers have the same middle name as well. Didn't know.
There you go. Augustus.
We're not divulging that on the podcast also, by the way, just in case.
We're not. Yeah, we're not.
We're not doing that. No.
So per Josh Echols, we're going to be doing defensive backs next week. So we're gonna bundle defensive backs, quarterbacks, and the safeties. We'll just bundle them all into one. I think that works. So that'll be next, probably Wednesday, because that's what we do.
Well, Jesse Rodriguez suggests long snapper, but I feel like that's controversial. I think the only thing more controversial than saying that you don't think that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to start week 1 is saying that Tabor Pepper is not going to be the long snapper in week 1. So that's a controversial episode.
Yeah, I mean, we could just do the long snapper episode now. It's Tabor Pepper.
We don't know that though. Well, so wait until they bring in camp competition.
Once Tabor Pepper starts getting that Walmart money, it's gonna be impossible to cut him. You can't cut that guy.
But what about when the media starts to drum up the oh man, I think they need to move off this guy, and they have so there's a little bit more to break down in a few days. We'll see about that. You know what, Tabor, we're joking. We love you,
Jesse. Just for you, I'm gonna go back and watch every punt and field goal, break down that tape meticulously, and I will let you know what I think about Tabor Pepper. But there's your long snapper cover. Oh, I'm gonna bunch him in with the tight ends just because, so I can find a fun fact about Tabor Pepper. Oh no, he'll be on special teams. We're gonna do a special teams episode. You can't.
Are we?
Yes. How else will people know that Mitch Wisnowski played like Australian rules football or whatever?
How else is the world gonna know that the 49ers wasted a 4th round pick on a punter when they could have had an impact player at some position on both sides of the ball? Goodness gracious!
Whoa! You can't say he's not an impact player. You remember that tackle he had in week 3
in preseason
last year? Yeah.
Oh man,
2 years ago, whatever it was.
So look, we're gonna get out of here on this one because it's gonna sound crass. But who's the better preseason player, Mitch Wisnowski or Jalen Hurts? Sorry, didn't mean to put that out there.
I got a question. Who would you rather have, Mitch Wisnowski or Bradley Pinion? I would say Wisnowski. Really?
Pinion has a ring, and as we all know,
punter wins.
Punter wins.
Punter wins. Punter wins is the best stat in the NFL. If it wasn't for Bradley Pinion, the Buccaneers would have been.
They wouldn't have won the Super Bowl. Don't forget, it's not Tom Brady. It's not Levante David or Devin White or any Chris Godwin or Mike Evans.
Listen.
Your punter is what's going to put you over the top, and that's why you take him in the 4th round.
When you can replace Jameis Winston with Bradley Pinion, you do it 10 out of 10 times. Those punter wins are the most important stat. Jason Aponte, as always.
Let's go Niners.
Go tell Javi you love him, huh?